pop in Warhammer, the first thing right away that you gotta accept is that it takes itself a little too serious. If you cringe at some of the things that the Gears of War characters say, you'll just die at how serious some of the war characters are. This isn't to say that's a bad story, because it really isn't. I've always been a huge fan of the series, and I've loved them all. I just expected, more of a personal and cinematic experience with Space Marine, as promised. And once we go in depth with the story here, you're wondering, does it really hold up to other third-person action games out there? Well, yes and no. The lore of Warhammer will help you enjoy this game a lot more than you should. Warhammer is an interesting take on humans versus orcs, and Warhammer does a well enough war story. Your mission in this game is to rescue an Inquisitor, and that's the main goal for about a good 2 hours until you actually get to him, and then everything changes. Upon arriving, you'll notice that the orcs aren't playing around, and everything is basically fucked up. Without getting too in depth and spoiling it, because I know how fans out there are already angry that other people have spoiled the story for them, your mission is to kick ass, take names, and save your people. The most basic way I can say it without spoilers. Again, I feel the story takes itself a bit too serious and the pacing has some issues. Let me make it clear, the pacing with the story has issues, not the overall gameplay pacing. That's actually pretty good. You'll get a few laughs, but I felt they dumbed down the orcs' funniness. Since playing the RTS games back in the day, I was laughing a lot more at what they were saying. In here, not so much. I can't say that the story is bad, but it feels a tad bit too slow, taking itself a little too serious, and not really trying anything new. If you want a decent enough story to get through the game, this will do, but I expect a lot more out of the Warhammer series with a story. With Warhammer, I can't say I was overly impressed with the designs of the areas. Some areas were nice enough, but the majority felt like they lacked spirit, I guess. They were just very straightforward corridors and sometimes out in the field, but mostly the fields were brown and scraps of metal here and there to kind of use for cover. On the flip side though, the animations are great, the blood looks wonderful, the designs of the Space Marines, orcs, chaos creatures, and so on are all great. The effect of the certain guns look fucking amazing. The mass amount of baddies coming at you is something to also mention. And so while some of the environments could have used some work, the rest of the game is pretty much top notch in my opinion. Now the gameplay. This is going to be a long one, so, grab some popcorn. Gameplay-wise, Warhammer does the third-person melee so well. I don't know how I'll go back to something like Uncharted or Gears of War. Sure as hell, they have fun finishers, but Warhammer just makes you feel like a badass motherfucker. You'll be able to gun down the orcs from a far range distance, and that's a lot of fun. But once you get close enough, you'll be able to mash the B button and watch your character swipe with either his chainsaw, axe, or hammer and murder mass amount of evil fuckers. The best part is the transition from shooting to melee is so smooth, it really makes you admire the melee combat with the shooting mechanics. If that hasn't interested you enough, you can also finish off the baddies after giving enough damage to them and watch as you smash their heads, cut their head off, or my personal freaking favorite, slice their neck. It just looks so beautiful. Warhammer doesn't provide you any cover system of any kind, which kinda sucks, but most of the time you'll be able to hide behind scraps and keep yourself safe enough till your shields regenerate. Also a cool note, and this is something I actually liked, where some people might not, is that your actual health bar will not regenerate unless you finish an orc with a special B attack. So it gives you even more incentive to finish off monsters in an awesome fashion. I think my main problem with Warhammer is the feel of the cinematic adventure isn't enough. I felt that they could have definitely included some excellent set pieces throughout, and it's just sorely missed opportunity here. Also, the game spikes in difficulty out of nowhere. Literally, you'll face off against 4 or 5 orcs and kill them with no problem and no damage, and then a mini-boss will appear behind you and kill you in 2 hits. Out of nowhere. The controls for the most part are responsive, but sometimes they feel clunky, leaving you to die more than you actually should. My other small complaint are the guns. They feel kind of generic for the most part. You'll occasionally find new weapons that will replace the ones you're holding now, and that's cool, but none of them feel, I don't know, fresh. Now, for most people this won't be an issue, but for someone like me, it is, especially after playing Resistance. I want a lot of different types of guns. The game offers basically a pistol type of weapon, a machine type of weapon, a sniper, and a viper weapon. They reuse and rearrange this by giving you sometimes snipers that do a little different or guns that blow up, but nothing really is standing out much, and that's a problem for someone like me. Despite the flaws I mentioned, Warhammer does something very right. It makes you feel like a badass motherfucker, and hey, that's one of the most important factors in a third-person shooter, isn't it? So in the end, Whitey, what do you feel about the game? Well, I have mixed feelings on the game. I felt it was a good start for the Warhammer series getting into the third-person shooting genre. It makes you feel like a badass at times. And keeps the unique lore of Warhammer, I just can't help but feel it misses so much potential. Its story could have been so much more and so much in depth that it is a missed opportunity. Instead, you just get an average story here. The unique design of the Warhammers are awesome, but where is that in the environments? The lack of innovation with guns is something that also would annoy some people. Definitely annoying me, and I expected more from a Warhammer game. The online, while fun, isn't anything special and will most likely be forgotten in the next few months. Saying that, I strongly suggest renting this game. With the nice long single player averaging around 10 hours, you'll enjoy the hell out of killing hundreds of orcs. Don't expect Warhammer to change the genre, but expect it to be a good game in this genre. I reward Warhammer 7, and it's a pretty good game, and I hope to see more for the series and let it grow and evolve in this genre. It's a good start for now, but I think I'm just going to go back to playing Dawn of War 2. Good try, Warhammer, but you got to do more than this.
Very good, Captain. Your time carrying my power source is finally at an end. Beats.com